Welcome to the Film Geezers podcast. Hello and welcome to the Film Geezers Batman special. I'm Batman. No. I'm Robbo. As always, I'm joined by the boy wonder himself, Cheeto.
Oh, so I get to be Robin and no one wants to be Robin, do they?
No. So, yeah, do you want to get it out of the way? You've already done yours. I'm Batman.
I'm so sorry to whoever's listening to this.
As you may have guessed by now, we're doing a Batman special. We're going to do it in two parts. This part we're going to deal with the 80s, 90s films. So, Burton, Keaton, Schumacher...
just the initial Warner Brothers franchise. So
yeah, well, I just forgotten his name. Kilmer and Clooney.
Yeah.
So before we start, I mean, my only real introduction into Batman was the 1960s TV show.
Yeah.
I'm not never read a Batman comic book. They were still showing that TV series in the 80s. I remember.
Yeah.
On sort of morning TV. And that was the Adam West very campy Batman.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I can't remember now. The 89 one. I did see it in the cinema, but I can't remember. It's difficult to go back and remember what the feeling was like at the time.
Yeah.
The hype surrounding it, I guess, because this is the first live action Batman film. I know you've got some information about it.
Well, I know there was in a couple of years after, because Batman first appeared in Detective Comics 27, I believe, and that was 1939, I believe.
Well, you've done some research.
And there was a couple. Back in the day, they used to have different formats in cinemas, and Batman started out as it was a theatrical release, but it was a serial. So people would...
Well, I remember that. That used to be on TV as well.
Yeah.
And I think it was the 50s, wasn't it? Was it 50s?
There was one when it first came out, which was the serial, which was the 40s. And then
there was... It's similar to, like, Buck Rogers and Flash Gordon and the Rock King, the Rocket Man.
And then, like you said, there was a film in the 50s.
Was there? Right.
But the Adam West one was the first, theatrical feature film of Batman,
because I seem to remember the Batman in the 40s serial.
Yeah.
He just used to drive around in a normal car, didn't have any special equipment or gadgets or anything. So
yeah, like I said, the serial was only a couple of years after the comics come out, so you think he didn't have much development really. Not as much, definitely not as much as we have nowadays. So maybe he just wasn't fully developed as a character then. But yeah, this 1989 one was the first. Obviously, the Adam West one came before, but this was the real introduction, like you said, to Batman for most people. Back then comics, they were huge, but they were still sort of like a subgroup.
Yeah.
And yeah, just general moviegoers, this would be their first introduction to Batman. It was the first time there was a big budget. It was, I believe they had an even bigger budget because Superman obviously 78 started it all really with the whole.
Well, that's kind of what the idea they had. What they wanted to do for Batman, what they'd done for Superman, hadn't they?
Yeah.
So that's the idea, was having this. I guess franchise wasn't a term used back then, but this series of films.
Yeah. But yeah, they've been trying to get this film. I think it's about 9 years. Or something like that. When they saw the success of Superman, I think the first script for this film was about 1980. But I think if we could go into it, tell the the plot, who starred in it, and we tell some facts and whatnot, and then we give our general gist of the actual film itself. Yeah. So this first one, like we said, Batman 1989, was written by Sam Hamm and directed by Tim Burton. It stars Michael Keaton as Bruce Wayne, Batman, Jack Nicholson as Jack Napier, aka the Joker, Kim Basinger as Vicky Vale, Michael Goff as Alfred Pennywise, Pat Hingle as Commissioner Gordon, and Billy D. Williams as Harvey Dent. And if you want to say the plot?
Yeah, so having witnessed his parents' brutal murder as a child, millionaire philanthropist Bruce Wayne fights crime in Gotham City disguised as Batman. A costumed hero strikes fear into the hearts of villains, but when a deformed madman who calls himself the Joker seizes control of Gotham's criminal underworld, Batman must face his most ruthless nemesis ever, while protecting both his identity and his love interest, reporter Vicky Vale.
So I think from just the plot, if there's anyone who hasn't seen this, and it's just here, it's a pretty basic Batman movie, you know, which had to really be. But Tim Burton was hired as director in 1986 after the success of Pee-wee's Big Adventure the previous year.
It's odd because Tim Burton actually came from an animation.
He did,
then. He actually studied animation. I think he was in the same class as John Lasseter from Pixar, and a few others as well. And I believe he went to work for Disney, and they parted, I think, at mutual. They had a mutual agreement because they didn't feel that they were right fit for each other.
No,
because I think he made a short called Frankenweenie, which was not. It's more in the sort of Corpse Bride style, and I think Disney obviously felt that wasn't their style, and he probably felt that he didn't fit in at Disney.
Well, Tim Burton, he even come out and admitted that he wasn't a comic book fan. He didn't grow up with Batman, and it's sort of Warner Bros. Was like, "Here, we're gonna give you Batman," and he just was like, "Okay." You know, I think he could see it as a huge break. Anyone involved in Batman or Superman is huge, because if you think, I know we've got the modern movies now. Everyone knows superheroes. Back then, really, Batman and Superman were the only two huge ones that everyone would know, and I think he just saw that as an opportunity.
Well, you had sort of in the 70s, you had spin-off, like the Hulk had a spin-off like TV movies where I think Thor was in there and some other, I can't remember now. But then you had a few of the Spider-Man. I think they tried to boot a Spider-Man series of films in the 70s. I really seem to remember seeing one in the cinema, but didn't have the same impact as
Batman and Superman were the guys, weren't they? DC were really ruling it back then. But yeah, I mean, it's odd. The film wasn't greenlit until after the success of Burton's Beetlejuice. So literally, it was only greenlit a year before the film's release.
Because it's odd. He'd only directed Pee-wee's Big Adventure, which is hardly a dark.
No.
It's hardly a study of a twisted, character.
Yeah.
Or maybe it is, I don't know. But yeah, I mean, that obviously made Warner's a lot of money, and they were probably thinking more about the money than they were about the actual film itself.
Because if you think about it, if they really did care about the film, they would maybe even ask Richard Donner to do it.
Yeah.
He obviously did Superman, or someone who knows the genre, but I think he was young, he was hot at that time, and
Beetlejuice is a bit of a dark. I mean, it's a dark comedy.
Yeah,
and I don't know if that's what they were trying to go for with Batman.
Well, maybe, but it's odd because literally the film was greenlit a year before its release. So from the time it was greenlit, they had to do all the pre-production, filming, whatnot, post-production, and release it within a year, which is just unheard of.
Yeah, because the writer Sam Hamm, he was a really big comic book guy, wasn't he? So they brought him to, because I think they'd attempted several different plots, hadn't they, in different scripts. And
like I said, there was multiple scripts from 1980 onwards, and I think one time there was a script where Bill Murray was involved as being Batman when he was in his prime, So
well, because I think Ivan Reitman was one of the possible directors, and he would have had, because obviously fresh off the success of Ghostbusters. Looking at Bill Murray being, but I mean, there was lots of different A-list actors, weren't they, considered for the role?
Yeah.
It even clear the producer's top choice, which is Pierce Brosnan. So I'm assuming this is pre-Bond.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
As well as Mel Gibson, Kevin Costner, Harrison Ford, Dennis Quaid, Tom Selleck, Charlie Sheen, Willem Dafoe, and I know that Keaton's casting was hugely controversial. Because before that, he was essentially a stand-up comedian that got into acting, and he used to make sort of comedy films. One of them that stands out is a film called Mr. Mom, where it's like he's an executive, loses his job, and he stays at home to look after the kids, and his wife goes out to work. So it's comedy around that when that was largely not the norm.
No, I mean, just to put it into perspective as well. I mean, it was controversial, yeah, but especially with the comic book community.
Yeah.
I mean, they put in about 50,000.
There was this is pre-internet, so they actually had to have a
petition, wasn't it?
petition that they submit, and it's 50,000 signatures against Keaton being cast as Batman.
But the running theory is that the reason why Keaton got the casting is because obviously they'd worked together on Beetlejuice together. So I don't know if he saw maybe his darker side or his ability to play a more serious character.
Yeah,
we will never know.
And then I think more importantly for the actual casting of the Joker, there was it Tim Curry, David Bowie, John Lithgow, who was Burton's choice, Brad Dourif, Ray Liotta, James Woods. Lithgow actually talks about his audition, wasn't it, where he spent his entire audition trying to talk Tim Burton out of casting him,
and it is a decision he would later publicly regret, wasn't it?
He felt he wasn't right for the part. But I think Nicholson, I think Robin Williams was also in the frame for that.
Yeah, he was,
and he was. I've read somewhere that he was actually formally offered the part. And it was only sort of Jack Nicholson in the last minute changing his mind.
Well, this thing of Nicholson, like I said, but the original, the screenplay for this film was a rewrite. That's all it was.
Yeah.
In 1980, there was a script for this film when they originally were going to make it in 1980, and it went for all different directors come and went. Of course, different actors came and went, and it just went through each different rewrites until we. Got obviously the Sam Hamm one, and Nicholson was the favourite since 1980. They wanted him to play the Joker, but I think obviously he was very big during the 80s. Yeah. I mean, he's big anyway, but he was very big during the 80s, and he just couldn't do it maybe, and that's why I think Robin Williams got brought in, but obviously we got him cast in the 89. He accepted the role of the Joker under strict conditions. He'd get top billing, a portion of the film's earnings, including the merchandise, and he'd control his own shooting schedule. So that just goes to show how much they wanted him. Because, I know Warner Brothers with their merchandise sales are a bit tight with that. So, and it is true, he's the top billing, isn't he?
He is, yeah. And that's unusual for a film where you get the... although he's the main antagonist, but he's also... Batman is Batman, so should be the main character. Yeah, and it's unusual that the main character doesn't get top billing. Yeah,
I just think they were just happy to have him in there. You know what I mean?
I read that he could work his own schedule, but he also would have time off. I think every time the Lakers were playing at home. Yeah, because he's obviously a big Lakers fan. He'd have the time off to go watch. So I mean, they obviously gave into his demands because they just wanted him so much.
I suppose with Jack Nicholson, you just you give him a blank check. You're like, right, you can do whatever you want, and that's what they do. Yeah. That's what they did, isn't it? Because it was a massive coup to get him.
It's a marquee name, isn't it? It's you probably guaranteed to get. I mean, you go, Michael Keaton as Batman, and people,
and Jack Nicholson as the Joker.
Yeah.
And the actual film is based on Red Hood, the origin story for the Joker. It does take inspiration here and there from The Killing Joke and The Dark Knight Returns, but it's interesting.
So these are the original comic book stories.
Yeah, these are the original comics, and it's interesting that a Batman movie is, and I suppose a lot of it is actually the Joker's story, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because what I like about this is it shows Jack Napier before he fell in the vat of acid, so it showed him how he was before he was the Joker, and then after, and you can see that transition. But it's just funny to me that a Batman movie focuses on the Joker's origin story. But like I said, this is more of a Joker movie to me, really. Mm-hmm. And now, if we go on to the film, it took place at Pinewood Studios from October 1988 to January 1989, largely due to resources, but also to flee the militant American Express. Now, October to January is a very short amount of time to film it in, but also you think at the time, I can't even imagine how big this movie was, where they actually had to move due to the press just hounding them and stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But if we move on, we'll get to the film's budget escalated from 30 million to 48 million, and this was largely due to secondary reshoots. So I can't even, if you think about it, October to January, but they also had secondary secondary reshoots in
talking
that.
about that, so 30 to 48 million might not sound a lot, but that's over 50% more. So if you, like today, if you went, okay, I'm making a film for 100 million, and it's going to now cost 170 million, that's quite a lot of money, isn't it?
Well, it doesn't really matter because Batman earned over $400 million worldwide, and at the time was the 5th highest grossing film of all time. I obviously someone who wasn't like a. I didn't go through that, I didn't grow up through that. Yeah. I can only imagine, but it sounds like it was like a phenomenon, like an event. But it's just a shame because you can't really remember it all.
Well, no, it's like I say, I'm sure I saw it at the cinema. I'm just trying to remember back what was happening at that time, because a lot of times it's, if you go to the cinema and there's nothing else to watch, then you go and watch a film. I think there was a lot of interest, a lot of hype around Batman. Maybe it was the marketing strategy and everything. But I can't actually remember what it was like watching the film, what it felt like when it came out.
Looking at everything, I think I can say that Superman opened the door for superhero movies, then Batman kicked the door for the hinges, that type of thing.
But like I said, there's the vacuum. We'd not had Batman films before.
No.
Batman, I think, as a character, people like. So I think people would have gone and watched the film. Like I said, because there was nothing else. Yeah. It's not like there was another Batman film out.
No.
Or anything.
Though, saying that, it did inspire the equally successful Batman the animated series, paving the way for the DC animated universe. And there was a feature film called Mask of the Phantasm.
That animated one.
Yeah. And that's very highly regarded. I remember watching that back in the day.
Is that the one with Mark Hamill as Joker?
Yeah, Mark Hamill as Joker, right. And that was huge as well, the DC animated universe. So there's a lot riding on this film. I think really we should get in our opinions on the film.
Like I said, I can't remember what it was like when I came out of the cinema. Did I go, wow, I really enjoyed that? Or I don't know. I mean, I mean, we watched it recently, obviously, on the lead up to this show. But and I think I was a little bit disappointed.
Well, this is the thing. I remember watching it when I was younger, growing up watching it, and none of us had watched it for about 10 years, or even longer than that. And I was a bit disappointed as well. Because
I don't know, sometimes your memories are different to how how it actually was. But I mean, controversially, I think we both thought that Michael Keaton was probably miscast.
100%.
I think they could have gone with, because I read an article recently that he gave, and he was talking about the reasons why he didn't do a third film, which we'll go into later on. But then he was talking about his focus of the film. He said Batman it's not about Batman, it's about Bruce Wayne, and that's how he played it. And I'm thinking, well, no, Batman is about Batman, and you want to see Batman, and you don't really get to see a lot of Batman in a film called Batman.
I don't think Batman has 10 minutes of screen time in this film, and it's a Batman film.
And we like action films, and you think
of superhero movies, action comes with it, and there just was not much action at all.
And the fact that they didn't, I mean, I think it was Sam Hamm who specifically chose not to do the origin story of Batman.
He done it through flashbacks,
and I don't know whether it. But it wasn't the full story.
That's what he decided to do. But he said that he wanted to do.
I mean, all you really see is parents getting killed, and it was. I don't know whether that was in the comic books, that Jack Napier, who would to become the Joker, actually was killed his parents.
It wasn't, and that's another point a lot of people don't like about this film.
Seems very contrived plot line to try and, and then it's Batman is responsible for Jack Napier falling in a vat of acid and being scarred to the point where he becomes then
just a bit of a coincidental, isn't it, really?
So it's almost like Jack Napier created Batman, and then Batman created the Joker. So it's that, And I just think it's a bit of a contrived plot.
Well, this thing, when I was watching it, of course, I respect it, for what it did for the superhero movies. But I think if you put them up, and that's the one thing. I know it's a bit harsh, but if you put them up to the superhero movies of nowadays, it is slightly hokey, isn't it?
Well, you compare Batman to Superman.
Yeah.
Right. Superman, it's in 2 acts. The first act is Superman coming to Earth, and it's his whole backstory. You know, how he learns about himself, how he goes off to the Fortress of Solitude, learns how to be Superman, and then the second part is him going to Metropolis, getting a job, and being Superman and having all these action stuff going on. But there's none of that in Batman. No. It's just he appears on a rooftop beating up 2 guys, and that's it. That's his introduction to. And like I say, for us sort of non-comic book fans who've never read a comic book, don't know, because I'm sure there's lots of different story arcs in the comic books of his origin story. But that's, I love an origin story. I would have loved to have seen that.
I think
maybe they didn't have time to do it. Maybe they felt that they were just going to have one film.
Yeah, maybe. And they wanted
the time that happens. And they just wanted to get. But
I think they really did miss a trick, though.
Yeah,
because it just doesn't have that, doesn't carry that weight.
Yeah,
and I feel like Michael Keaton as Batman. One, he was like emotionless throughout the whole thing. He just had this mold on his face, didn't he? Yeah. And he wasn't particularly.
I mean, there was times when they were trying to do the one-liners, and it just didn't work.
No,
because it didn't. I think it didn't know whether it wanted to be dramatic or a bit of a. Like a Beetlejuice, like a bit of a black comedy, or I don't know. It just.
What is the thing? You think of Batman? Like Batman doesn't do one-liners. In the Dark Knight trilogy, he does a couple, but it's not where they try and cut the tension. They've worked so hard to build and stuff like that, But I just feel like it just goes from scene to scene. There's nothing extraordinary about it. I wasn't that invested in the story itself. There wasn't a huge, massive story that you got to follow. It's just scenes on the TV that you're just watching. It didn't pull me in.
No.
And like I said, I don't know if it was maybe my fault, because this film is really highly rated and I heard some stuff about it, and maybe I was like, okay, this is the Batman film. This is where it all began. But it kind of fell flat on its face for me, really. And when you get to the third act, there's not that much happened. Literally, the Joker gets his ass beat by Batman, and that's it. There's no stakes, there's no nothing, and the film ends, and you're like, okay.
Yeah, I got to say, I was, all the hype it's received. I mean, like you say, it's got some great reviews, got some, and I was just a bit disappointed, really.
I think that's the takeaway from it. Is just it's disappointing.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, this is our own personal views, and other people will.
I'm sure if you're a comic book fan back then, you grew up with the movies, maybe you'd love it, but just it was just for us, just a bit disappointing.
So, on to from the success of Batman making $400 million, it's obvious that they're going to have a sequel, Batman Returns, which is 1992. Do you want to tell us a bit about it?
Yeah, it was written by Daniel Waters, once again directed by Tim Burton.
Because I don't think he didn't want to do a sequel.
He didn't want to do a sequel. I think the only way he was going to do a sequel was if he could have more control over the film, and that's obviously what they gave him. Once again, it stars Michael Keaton as Bruce Wayne and Batman, and a legend in this household, Danny DeVito as the Penguin. Michelle Pfeiffer as Selena Kyle and Catwoman, Christopher Walken as Max Schreck, Michael Goff as Alfred Pennywise once again, and Pat Hingle as Commissioner Gordon. And if you want to say the plot,
the plot is the monstrous Penguin, played by Danny DeVito, who lives in the sewers beneath Gotham, joins up with wicked, shock-headed businessman Max Schreck to topple the Batman once and for all. But when Shrek's timid assistant Selena Kyle finds out and Schreck tries to kill her, she's transformed into the sexy Catwoman. She teams up with the Penguin and Schreck to destroy Batman. I can't say Shrek without thinking of the Green Ogre. But sparks fly unexpectedly when she confronts the Cape Crusader. So, I say Burton didn't want to direct another Batman film, but Warner Brothers developed a script again with Sam Hamm, which had the Penguin and Catwoman going after hidden treasure, which is
that's ridiculous, isn't it?
But Burton agreed to return after they granted him more creative control, And of course, Ham's rewrites went through. Ham's script went through rewrites. Yeah. So it's
ridiculous.
Kind of some kind of Indiana Jones type.
I don't know who. I don't know. Literally, they probably fired whoever put that screenplay together. And believe it or not, Dustin Hoffman was originally the first choice to play the Penguin.
Him actually as a Penguin,
but he declined.
Oh no.
Apart from Hoffman, Marlon Brando, John Candy, Bob Hoskins, Ralph Waite, Dean Martin, Dudley Moore, Alan Rickman, John Goodman, Phil Collins, Charles Grodin, Christopher Lee, Joe Pesci, Ray Liotta, Gabrielle Byrne, Alex Rocco and Christopher Lloyd were all considered for the part before DeVito got it. And now DeVito was actually suggested for the role by his friend Jack Nicholson after the financial success of the first film, in which Nicholson, of course, played the Joker.
They were in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest together, weren't they? It's not a group of people, because it's like none of them physically look. I mean, you go from Marlon Hoffman to Marlon Brando to John Candy to John Goodman to Phil Collins. None of them sort of physically resemble
Christopher Lee as well.
Yeah.
You know. Phil Collins. What were they on about?
Because in the original TV series, it was played by Burgess Meredith.
Yeah,
and he was meant to return as the Penguin's father as a cameo, but I think he was ill, and I think he died shortly after that. But that would have been quite a nice little nod to the TV show.
I mean,
series.
out of them, could you see anyone playing Penguin out of them?
Well, probably the one who looks most like Dan DeVito is Phil Collins, I think.
Yeah, is Penguin going to be doing some drumming? Is he? Sorry about that.
Dean Martin, I can't see what Dean
ridiculous.
Martin.
He must have been really old.
Martini Swilling Penguin, maybe.
He must have been really
Marlon
old.
Brando. Jeez.
I mean, he had the body type for it at that point. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I just. Yeah, I mean Hoffman I could see. But he'd probably get really method into it. But yeah.
Like I said, I think with the whole like Joe Pesci and Ray Liotta, maybe they saw Goodfellas like, we're going to have them in our film. But in I suppose I think we both agreed that.
I forget it was what 92. So it's been around that time when
he was probably like, I've seen them, but great performance. I want them to play the Penguin. But I think we'll both agree that DeVito was the perfect part of the role. You know, he looked like him. He had the body type, he had the height, and he's also I think he's actually a really good actor as well, and he played the part. We'll get onto the film in a sec, but
according to Pfeiffer, she felt devastated after Annette Bening was cast as Catwoman. However, Bening became pregnant, allowing Pfeiffer to get the role. And so, to prepare for the role, Pfeiffer attended kickboxing classes and practiced handling a whip. Other actresses also considered included Susan Sarandon, Meryl Streep, who was considered too old by Burton, Brooke Shields, whom Burton considered not bankable, Demi Moore, Nicole Kidman, who ended up playing Dr. Chase Meridian in Batman Forever, Sean Young, who had initially been cast as Vicky Vale in the first film before having to drop out after a horse riding injury, Jodie Foster, Gina Davis, Sigourney Weaver, Lena Olin, Madonna, Raquel Welch, Cher, Ellen Barkin, Jennifer Jason Leigh, Lorraine Bracco, Bridget Fonda and Jennifer Beals. So again, a lot of people linked with that. It seems that everybody, whenever a role's being cast, everybody in Hollywood is considered for it. I think I was considered for it.
I was sperm and I was considered. That's the thing, right? With this film, it seems like in the first one, they had their mind on who they wanted, where, like you said, they were just casting the whole of Hollywood. And once again, we'll get into it later, but we think Pfeiffer was the best.
Right, I think I read something about Sean Young, that she actually turned up to audition in a homemade cat suit. To try and lobby for the part. Obviously didn't work.
Right, I suppose we got onto Billy D. Williams as well.
I know.
He was asked to reprise his role with Harvey Dent, but declined. This leading to the creation of evil business mogul Max Schreck. So Max Schreck wasn't never in the comic books, and David Bowie was approached to play the character, but declined due to other projects. Burton begrudgingly cast Christopher Walken, and apparently was scared of the veteran actor.
Why would you be scared? I know he's a little bit, he's a little bit
hot-headed, maybe.
Yeah, but it comes across as quite scary.
Yeah.
But I could see David Bowie in it. Yeah. That'd be. But it's just odd that they recast.
I don't know why he don't know why Billy D. Williams declined it. I really don't. Maybe it was typecasting. I mean, obviously he's Harvey Dent, but he's Orlando to me, and I think it's a lot of us.
Yeah, maybe.
In early 1991, two of Hollywood's largest sound stages, Stage 16 at Warner Brothers and Stage 12 at Universal Studios, were being prepared for the filming of Batman Returns, and filming started in June 1991.
June 92.
Film started in June 1991.
Yeah. Oh, right, so yeah. Batman I'm reading the next. Batman Returns was released on June the 19th, 1992, and it grossed $266.8 million worldwide on a total budget of $80 million and received positive reviews. So, yeah, it did a decent return, not as much as the original, which you would expect, I guess. Does that mean that a lot of people were put off by the original? So
maybe
half, nearly, maybe, possible.
Well, this is the thing. I think we're both.
Well, personally, when I watched this the other day, because we obviously watched Batman, we watched them in order.
Yeah.
So did we watch Batman and Batman Returns back to back?
Yeah.
I thought this was a much better film.
I did as well. Yeah.
Might be controversial, but I just
think for the main fact, it had all the dialogue scenes from the original, but it just had so much more action.
Yeah.
And I think DeVito is really good in this as well as Penguin.
Yeah. I think people forget how because obviously he was in the sitcom Taxi for a long time, so that a lot of people sort of see him as that character.
Yeah.
But before that, he was in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. He's done some really good acting, dramatic roles. We'll forget about Deck the Halls. But he's really, people forget, I think, how good he is.
He's a really good actor. He is. And this just goes to show, doesn't it?
And then you've got Christopher Walken in there. You've got Michelle Pfeiffer.
I think her role is almost legendary, isn't it?
Yeah, it's slightly odd. It's that, like I was saying, it's that typical comic book devolution. Into insanity, where she's getting licked by cats and and one's trying to eat her, I think, at one point. But after Shrek tries to merge, because she obviously finds out about his shady business dealings, he tries to kill her by throwing her out of a window, and she then she goes home and she then starts to
basically smash up her apartment,
insane, stitches together this homemade catsuit out of PVC or whatever it is, and goes out
and prowl.
Good one. But it's just, again, it's a familiar storyline. I'm not sure if it's ever been covered in the comic books or not. But essentially, Max Schreck, he wants changes to happen in Gotham. The mayor is blocking it, so he has the mayor. He has the election recalled, doesn't he? And he then puts up the Penguin as mayoral candidate, and he becomes the mayor then.
And also, it's the Penguin's. What he's trying to do is basically because he was abandoned by his parents when he was younger, because he's basically a freak, and he wants to take all the firstborns away from parents, so they know the feeling of how he, which is quite a fascinating plot, really. It's sort of left field,
because you kind of think that the Penguin is a tool of Shrek, but actually he's not. He's got his own agenda as well, which then obviously Batman has to stop.
What I like though is he puts on this facade, because at the start he's liked by the public, isn't he? That's why he was elected as mayor. But then you start to see the deterioration of his character, and every now and then you get some scenes where he's eating fish. He's a weird guy, isn't he?
Yeah, but that also introduces the circus, because he was a circus freak, wasn't he, essentially? And so he surrounds him. His gang is all made up of circus people, and they're all doing leaps and handstands and all that kind of cartwheels and things. And I guess that maybe seeped into some of the later.
Yeah, maybe it could have definitely inspired later films. But like I said, the main thing about this film is it had more action. You also got more Batman as well, didn't you?
You did,
a bit more fighting as well, and it can only be a positive, really.
Yeah, I don't think I can't remember. There's no more of Batman's backstory, is there? There's no more flashbacks or anything like that to his childhood or anything.
Yeah, like I said, this is not a perfect movie by any stretch of the imagination, but it is 100%, in our opinion. Like I said, opinion. It is a much improved version of the original, and like I said, it actually has a pretty good plot that you can actually get invested in, and you know what's happening, and it's got a clear start, middle and end, doesn't it? And just everything you want in the film.
Christopher Walken who says poontang.
Yeah.
It's a poontang. It's like just bizarre kind of thing for him to say. But yeah, I think we both agreed that we liked this better than the first one.
And also liked the third act more, 100%. Yeah. Right.
And that then would obviously spawn another sequel.
Yeah.
And this would be the 1995 Batman Forever, which basically gets a lot of shit, doesn't it?
Yeah.
From it's considered, I think, the only saving grace is Batman and Robin.
So we'll get into everything about it, because there's a lot on this.
Yeah. So I think this is the last film where Tim Burton had any involvement, isn't it? So you've got some information about the film.
Yeah, so it was written by Akiva Goldsman, directed by Joel Schumacher. We'll get into why Tim Burton wasn't directing. Yeah. It stars Val Kilmer as Bruce Wayne and Batman, Tommy Lee Jones as Two-Face, Jim Carrey as the Riddler, Nicole Kidman as Dr. Chase Meridian, Chris O'Donnell as Dick Grayson, Michael Gough as Alfred Pennywise, and Pat Hingle once again as Commissioner Gordon.
And the plot: Batman faces off against two foes: the schizophrenic, horribly scarred former District Attorney Harvey Dent, aka Two-Face, and the Riddler, a disgruntled ex-Wayne Enterprise inventor seeking revenge against his former employer by unleashing his brain-sucking weapon on Gotham City's residents. As the Cape Crusader also deals with tortured memories of his parents' murder, he has a new romance with psychologist Chase Meridian.
Oh, there's multiple reasons why Burton's threequel will never happen that we'll get into later. But so the reason why Tim Burton wasn't directing, he originally was. He was in the director's chair, but Warner Brothers felt that his films were too dark. I believe they had a PG-13 rating, didn't they? Yeah, that's right. And obviously, when you have a darker tone film, they just care about merchandising or whatever. They don't. I suppose they associate PG-13 with not making as much money, maybe. Yeah. And he, like I said, he was in the director's chair, and they were like, we want someone to direct it a lot more light-hearted, maybe, or a lighter tone. Mm-hmm. So they pushed him back to the producer, and they brought in Joel Schumacher to direct it. So that's why. That's the main big reason. Yeah. There's a couple of reasons, but that's the biggest reason why he wasn't. Yeah. So Warner Brothers began looking around, and they eventually gave the film to Joel Schumacher, based on the success of his adaptation of John Grisham's legal thriller, The Client. Yeah,
like I said, I'd read an interview with Michael Keaton about why he turned down the third, and it was the lighter tone of it. Didn't like the direction in which Joel Schumacher was taking it.
No.
So then they looked around, producers off the Cape Crusader to the relatively unknown Ethan Hawke. He turned it down in a move that he's since regretted again. Warner Brothers would go on to offer the film to both Alec and William Baldwin. Well, at the same time. Daniel Day-Lewis, Johnny Depp, Ralph Fiennes, Tom Hanks, Keanu Reeves, and they eventually landed on Val Kilmer. Now, Val Kilmer, at that time, I think, had he just done Tombstone?
Couple years prior, couple years prior he did Tombstone. So, he came off of Heat, I believe.
Heat. So, yeah, Tombstone and Heat. He wasn't one of the main characters in it. He was more of a supporting actor.
Yeah.
But I can actually see... I mean, I've got to say to you that... And, controversially, we both agree that we thought Val Kilmer was a better choice.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
For Batman. No offence to Michael Keaton, but he just doesn't look like a leading man. No. Whereas Val Kilmer very much does.
He fits with the look of Bruce Wayne, doesn't he?
He does. How we imagine Bruce Wayne to look like. And like we said as well, there's no way that he would have been able to land Kim Basinger.
I know. Well, Val Kilmer
and Michelle Pfeiffer. Whereas Val Kilmer, you do believe that.
Yeah.
And Nicole Kidman. So,
I mean, could you see any of these actors playing him?
Alec Baldwin. I always think Alec Baldwin's too smooth.
Yeah.
He's very. But he's Alec Baldwin as well. Whatever he's in.
Yeah, he just
I don't
is,
think he has got the dramatic depth to be able to. Daniel Day-Lewis, yeah. I don't know.
I think he's a bit too...
In 95... Is it 95?
Yeah.
Maybe not. I don't know. He's probably too intense for that part. Johnny Depp, I don't know, he's probably too short, isn't he?
Yeah, too short. Maybe, once again, it's just Johnny Depp in a suit.
Ralph Fiennes... Tom Hanks, I don't know. I mean, he's a good dramatic actor, but for exactly the same reason Keaton was wrong, I think probably Hanks would have been wrong for it as well.
Yeah, I mean, he at this point in time, he already won 2 Oscars. Yeah. He was the biggest movie star in the world, and I just think you would one, he's typecast because he's the biggest movie star in the world, and 2, I just don't think Batman would have suited him at all.
No. Keanu Reeves. He'd just done Speed, hadn't he, at that time?
Yeah.
Maybe too young, do you think, for that?
Maybe.
Possibly.
So, yeah, I think they landed on Kilmer, and he was, like, we both agree, he was the perfect choice.
We actually liked him better than Keaton, which is probably going to be controversial for some people.
Right.
Okay, Billy D. Williams played Harvey Dent in the first Batman film, was completely written out of the script on the second due to turning the character down. Was unsurprisingly recast for the third film. Tim Burton originally cast Billy D. Williams, who people may know is a black actor, as the white character of Harvey Dent because he wanted to include the villain Two-Face in a future film, using the concept of an African-American Two-Face for the black and white concept. Joel Schumacher recast Tommy Lee Jones, and he was Schumacher's first choice for the start.
Yeah, because there's actually quite a lot of controversy around this.
Well, it is, because white... you cast a black actor in a white role, which is not. I mean, maybe it was different back then, but that's nothing new now, because you wanted to show the kind of duality. So I guess one of his sides of his faces would have been makeup. So you've got the black and the white, and dark and the light. But then, casting Tommy Lee Jones, and I think all they do is they make up one side of his. They leave one side of his face kind of normal, and the other side is scarred, isn't it? Similar to how he is in. Well, not similar to how he is in The Dark Knight. But
well, like I said, it was very controversial.
Yeah.
Based on the fact that Billy D. Williams had played Harvey Dent in the past, but Joel Schumacher just said he quashed all that and just said from the start, the only person I wanted to play the role was Tommy Lee Jones.
Yeah, because again he was at the peak, wasn't he, back then?
Yeah.
I think he was one of the biggest.
He'd obviously won an Oscar about 2 years earlier. He was in everything. He was one of, if not the biggest movie star in the world at the time. So you can't. I don't think you can have a go at Joel Schumacher for casting him. No. He was, and we think he's very good in this film as well. So I don't know if he's going to look at it.
I'm assuming that Billy D. Williams didn't want to come and do it anyway.
Well, it's the thing. He says since he's regretted it, so I don't know if he regretted it at the time or as years have gone by.
Yeah. Okay. Robin Williams was in discussions to be the Riddler at one point, but eventually turned down the role, and he was resentful he was used in 1989 really as bait for Jack Nicholson to play the Joker, which is true. I mean, Robin Williams, like what I've read, is that he was actually offered the part and accepted it, and then Nicholson came in somebody who said to Jack, they just cast Robin Williams, and he said, okay, well, I'm in, and but also he had contractual issues with Jumanji. What was that all about?
At the time, he was literally filming Jumanji, so he wouldn't have been able to do it anyway.
And amazingly, Michael Jackson lobbied hard for the role, but was turned down before Jim Carrey was cast. Why not? Why not Michael Jackson? I don't know. Other actors considered: John Malkovich, he's always a good villain.
Yeah.
Brad Dourif.
Obviously, he played Chucky.
Who was considered before by Byrne to portray the Scarecrow. Kelsey Grammer, Matthew Broderick, Phil Hartman, Steve Martin, Mark Hamill, Adam Sandler and Rob Schneider. Most of them comedy actors.
Yeah. There's a few there that would have been very good. And this thing, obviously we'll get into it.
I mean, Jim Carrey at the time obviously was most known for Ace Ventura. Had he done Dumb and Dumber at that point?
Yeah, he did, yeah.
So
year previous.
Yeah. So he was a comedic actor. He was most notable for his kind of physicality, wasn't he, in comedy? Yeah. And again, I don't know, maybe he would have been... Because you compare his joke to the one in the 60s, and it's very similar in the way that it's portrayed.
Yeah.
I don't know how it's portrayed in the comic books.
Jim Carrey is exactly like the Riddler in the comic books.
So it's that total over-the-top kind of...
That's how he is, in the comic books. But it's just interesting, because like you said, these are world-class actors, John Malkovich, Kelsey Grammer. It'd be interesting to see these guys.
Could they have brought the same kind of energy?
That's the thing. I think what the tone Joel Schumacher was going for, they would not have been able to. It would have been much more serious.
Yeah. It's interesting. Mark Hamill was considered, but he obviously was. He was in the animated series as the Joker, so that may have caused some confusion.
Yeah, and that's probably why he didn't. And maybe he's a bit too old. I think, you know.
Yeah. Rennie Russo was originally cast as Dr. Chase Meridian by Tim Burton while he was still the director of the third film. When Burton was demoted to producing credit, Michael Keaton stepped down from the role of Batman. As known from before, Val Kilmer was brought in. Kilmer, of course, being much younger than Keaton himself. Schumacher decided that Russo was a bit too old for Kilmer. During recasting, Robin Wright turned down the role while Jean Triplehorn and Linda Hamilton were also both considered. Eventually, Schumacher landed on Nicole Kidman, who of course was previously considered for all of Catwoman in the previous film. So again, a few actresses considered. I mean, Rennie Russo was your kind of go-to in the 90s. She was in Lethal Weapon. She was in...
she's an Outbreak. She was in everything.
In the Line of Fire.
Yeah,
with a much older Clint Eastwood.
Yeah,
so
that's what I was saying. Like, I think that's a ridiculous thing, because we have seen her. Like, you just have to say she's been with Clint Eastwood in a fucking film. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But I mean, I don't know, because to be honest, the character's not that really.
Once again, Chase Meridian. Is it? Chase Meridian was written just for this film. She wasn't. She hadn't had comic books.
But she's just the female.
She's just the basic female protagonist, isn't she?
Yeah. So there's not really much character development goes into it. Linda Hamilton.
I think she was maybe a bit too old, maybe. For the same reasons. And now in the previous two films, Robin was written out of the script due to the bloated cast, but also due to Tim Burton's minor distaste of the character. When he was still in line to direct the third film, he wanted comic Shawn Wayans, most famous for playing Shorty Meeks in the Scary Movie franchise, to play the boy wonder. As soon as Joel Schumacher took the reins, his first choice was Leonardo DiCaprio. This was cut short, however, due to the schedule and child labour laws. Due to said child labour laws, Schumacher landed on Chris O'Donnell to play Dick Grayson. Not
a bad casting. No. Like I was saying to you, Chris O'Donnell is one of those actors who was really big for a short time.
Yeah.
And then kind of, like I said, the only other film I'd ever seen him in was this. It was a Musketeer film with Kiefer Sutherland and Oliver Platt. And I think Charlie Sheen was in it possibly. But then obviously he's more recently well known in NCIS Los Angeles, but I can't remember another film that I've actually seen him in.
No.
And again, it's that kind of he's a circus acrobat, isn't he? He's a trapeze artist, and when his family are killed by Two-Face,
Bruce has got to sort of take him under his wing, doesn't he?
Yeah. But what happens is Two-Face turns up at the circus that Bruce Wayne is attending, and he wants Bruce Wayne to step forward and give himself up, which he doesn't do. So, and that leads to the death of Dick's family.
Yeah.
So he kind of blames Bruce.
Yeah.
For what he did, but then he finds out that Bruce is Batman, so he obviously blames him for not stepping forward, and but then Bruce decides to take. The idea is that he's going to either go into like the social care system, but then Bruce makes him his ward and almost like adopts him.
Yeah.
And then his plan is then to just disappear then. But then when he finds out Bruce Wayne's Batman, he decides to stick around and help him, essentially. Yeah. So he kind of forces his way into... And I don't know whether that's anything, how that is in the comic books, how that comes about.
Some storylines, yeah.
Yeah, because I think in the TV series, it just starts with them both together. Yeah. It's never explained how they met and...
I mean, I do appreciate a bit of a backstory there, but I don't know if it was the right choice. But Batman Forever began filming in September 1994, finishing in early 1995. Filming took place in various studios throughout Los Angeles, Jersey City and New York City. And Batman Forever was released on June 16th, 1995, to mixed reviews from critics, who praised the visuals, action sequences and performances of Carey and Jones, but criticised the CGI, costume designs and tonal departure from previous films. Kilmer's performance polarised critics, with both positive and negative comparisons to Keaton's. Nonetheless, the film was a massive box office success, grossing over $336 million worldwide, and became the 6th highest grossing film worldwide in 1995.
Like we said, I don't actually mind this film.
I don't.
I actually like this film.
I do. I can say this is a good Batman film.
It is. I mean, there's things that are wrong with it, but there's things that are wrong with every film. Like, if you pick at it, you can find things.
I think it's one of those things where people jump on the bandwagon, don't they?
Yeah.
And they just shit all over this film. If you actually watch it...
Yeah. The fact that it was the 6th highest grossing film worldwide in that year.
And it grossed more than the previous film.
More than the previous film. It was a little bit of a departure from Burton's Batman in the tone of the film. It went more back to its sort of comic book roots, I guess, or the campy 60s TV series. But that didn't overshadow the film, no. I don't think. And I think, like I say, Kilmer, I felt was...
I think he's a brilliant Batman.
Was a really good Batman. And I think he had the dramatic... Although, again, it's not... In all of these films, the real character of Bruce Wayne isn't really explored that much.
No.
It's just seen brooding a lot. And
to be fair, this one, though, I do like how this one goes more into the lore surrounding his parents' murder, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Because it shows him in various flashbacks, him attending the funeral and whatnot, and tells you a bit more about maybe the after effects of that. But that's quite a cool thing to see, isn't it? But...
Yeah, I agree about the CGI. That was a little... I mean, it felt almost like an MTV video, the way it was shot. And I think structurally it wasn't great either. It kind of jumped around a bit. But all in all, like I said, I didn't mind it. I know it's considered one of the worst films ever made.
Yeah.
Like I said, the only saving grace is Batman and Robin of that. Yeah. But I would say that it doesn't deserve the negativity that is around it.
I mean, one thing, I think it goes in that certain tonal... it knows what it's doing, doesn't it? You know, it doesn't like come in and out of it. It goes straight full on, like it's almost like a 90s action movie, because it is. I mean, the first act is we get all Batman, don't we?
Yeah.
Foiling one of Two-Face's plans, and that's just the whole tone of the movie. Everything's heightened, the action, and I feel, like we said, I think Jim Carrey's really good as well. I think people wouldn't know the comic book character of Riddler, would be like, this is so over the top, but as he played it how Joel Schumacher wanted it. I think Tommy Lee Jones is great anyway. He's great in any role, isn't he? And he's great as Two-Face.
Yeah.
And if this film has some good antagonists, good protagonist, action. What more do you want from a Batman movie?
Exactly, and we know what Warner Brothers are like.
Yeah,
we've mentioned it before in previous. They will actually fuck up their own films, basically.
100%.
You hire somebody in to do a series of films, and when they've delivered 2 of the films, you say, actually, well, we don't like the style and tone that you do. So we bring somebody else in to bring in a different style and tone, but try and keep some continuity and expect it to work and people to like it. just give somebody 3 films and say, there you go, you got 3 films. How can you maintain that continuity, that same level? I just don't get it. If you're chopping and changing.
Warner Brothers are terrible.
They are, and.
But also, I think this film's very good because it knows when to use Batman and when to not.
Yeah.
And it's refreshing as well. It's refreshing because the previous 2 compared to this, maybe not nowadays, but were really dark.
Yeah.
And just to see this is the other end of the spectrum of Batman, and it's nice to see him partner up with Robin. You know, it's always nice to see Dick Grayson. But yeah, I think this is, for me personally, this is a film I'm gonna continue to watch because I really do like this film. So if you go into it knowing what to expect, then you're not going to be let down at all. So moving on to the
Batman and Robin 1997. Obviously, with the success of Batman Forever, you are going to inevitably have another sequel. This again was written by Akiva Goldsman, directed by Joel Schumacher. It stars George Clooney as Bruce Wayne, Batman, Arnold Schwarzenegger as Mr. Freeze, Chris O'Donnell as Dick Grayson, Uma Thurman as Poison Ivy, Alicia Silverstone as Batgirl, Michael Goff as Alfred Pennyworth, and Pat Hingle as Commissioner Gordon, and Elle Macpherson as Julie Madison, who has very brief amount of time in the film. The only 2 characters in all 4 of these films are Alfred and Commissioner Gordon. They? And they're very different characters to later.
Yeah, so
later
if
films
we
as well.
We go on about this. We're going about how we feel about Gordon and Alfred.
And the plot?
Batman and his partner Robin attempt to foil the sinister schemes of a deranged set of new villains, most notably the melancholy Dr. Freeze, who wants to make Gotham into an Arctic region, and the sultry Poison Ivy, a plant-love femme fatale. As the dynamic duo contends with these bad guys, a third hero, Batgirl, joins the ranks of the city's crime fighters.
So, Warner Brothers fast-tracked development for Batman and Robin following the box office success of Batman Forever. Now, usually you have about 3 years between sequels. So, when you fast-track something, that's never a good sign, is it, really? And Schumacher and Goldsman can see the storyline during pre-production on A Time to Kill. So, they're actually working on another film.
You made a fucking film in between this.
In between.
It's ridiculous, isn't it?
And it's like, it's just... You can never expect.
This thing with movies, you've got to take your time with them.
Yeah.
It may be disappointing to fans if the film gets pushed back, but I'll appreciate it more if they get a better product. But
Val Kilmer decided not to reprise the role of Batman over scheduling conflicts with the Sane. He also didn't like because what happened on this one is Batman Forever was like you said before, was a PG-13.
Yeah.
And Warners didn't like that because they felt that you were excluding the whole demographic of audience, which is kids, which is most important. And to appeal to kids, that he wanted to lighten the tone even more. This is Warner Brothers for the merchandising. So your little brat will go and watch Batman and then beg, badger his mum and dad into buying him a Mr. Freeze and a Batman with nipples. So the tone of the film was even more comic book, more over the top. Schumacher had a strong interest in casting William Baldwin, another name that's cropped up before George Clooney. Now George Clooney at this time was still making ER, and I think they'd given him time off to make this film. He was probably the biggest TV star at the time and was desperately trying to get into films.
Yeah.
I think up to this point, the only film that I recognise was From Dusk Till Dawn. He'd made before this. Not a great film. Not one that people often talk about as a Clooney film. But he obviously won the role because who's not going to go and watch the biggest TV star make his kind of Hollywood introduction
in a Batman movie,
both David Duchovny of X-Files and even Kurt Russell were also approached to play the role of the Cape Crusader. Duchovny fizzled out and Russell turned it down. Could you see Kurt Russell in that kind of role? Yeah.
Not in this tone of a movie, but maybe in a bit of a darker movie I could,
Yeah, because he certainly can play the suave kind of... He was in the executive decision,
he'll be a brilliant Bruce Wayne, wouldn't he?
Yeah. and Mr. Freeze, who was considered Ed Harris, Anthony Hopkins, Patrick Stewart, before the script was rewritten to accommodate Arnold Schwarzenegger's casting. Schumacher decided that Mr. Freeze must be big and strong like he was chiselled out of a glacier, and Schwarzenegger, who was probably the biggest star at the time, was paid $25 million salary for his role, and he received again top billing, didn't he, for that?
Like you said, he was the biggest star at the time, and it's another Batman movie where the antagonist gets top billing.
So 97, would he have done Jingle All the Way, Kindergarten Cop? So is this another one of his attempts at making a sort of a more family friendly?
Because he'd done
image.
The year prior, he'd done Eraser, which was like a adult thriller film. So maybe he was trying to get into that demographic, maybe.
Yeah. Demi Moore, Sharon Stone, Julia Roberts were considered for the role of Poison Ivy. Ironically enough, during production of Batman Forever, there were talks of Nicole Kidman playing Ivy in early versions, but the character was cut, and Kidman was instead cast as psychiatrist Chase Meriden. Thurman took the role because she liked the femme fatale characterisation of Poison Ivy. So they were going to use her in Batman Forever, but they cut the role and basically created this
Chase Meridian,
this original character, just
to accommodate her.
Something to do. So the original start date for filming was August 96, but principal photography did not begin until September the 12th, 1996. Batman and Robin finished filming in late January 97, 2 weeks ahead of the shooting schedule. The film was mostly shot at Warner Brothers Studios in Burbank, California. Batman and Robin went on to gross $107.3 million in North America and $130.9 million internationally, coming to a worldwide total of $238.2 million. Warner Brothers acknowledged Batman and Robin's shortcomings in the domestic market, but pointed out success in other markets. Batman and Robin would go down in history as one of the worst superhero films of all time. Clooney himself has spoken critically of the film, saying in 2005, "I think we might have killed the franchise," and called it a waste of money. And I've read somewhere that he personally will refund people who've seen the film. I don't know if that's true or not, but it's just one of those nice little sort of things to...
Well, listen, Batman and Robin is legendary, isn't it? Because we hear all the bad things about this movie, about how it's the worst movie ever made, and I think I don't know about you, but I enjoyed this film. I did.
Yeah. If you say took it as a standalone film, maybe, but I think as a series of films, it's obviously it is the weakest one of them. I think. You do get to see a lot of Batman, but do you actually really want to see him? You know, I think George Clooney again was miscast. I mean, he's a TV star, but I just don't think he had the dramatic range.
I think he lobbied for the role really hard. So he being TV's leading man, I think they were persuaded to cast him, and maybe they rushed to cast him, maybe.
Possibly,
but, like you, I don't think he has the acting ability to play Bruce Wayne.
I mean, Bruce Wayne is supposed to be this tortured soul. He's witnessed his parents murdered. I
felt like Clooney had a smile on his face the whole time. You know what I mean? It just
So from that point of view, I think he was just George Clooney. I think every film that he's ever in, he's just George Clooney. And I felt that the film was just disjointed. It didn't flow properly. It was confusing at times what was going on. Again, it sort of ran back to its comic book roots, didn't it? And it was very...
We'll get the one-liners and all that.
Well, apparently, one of the conditions of Schwarzenegger doing it was he could rewrite his lines.
And you could tell, can't you?
And he had, I think, 17 one-liners in it. And it's just, I think you got to decide what film do you want to make. Is it going to be a dramatic action film, or is it going to be a comedy film? Like you say, I mean, the later films do have some one-liners, but they're not at the expense of the actual film.
Yeah, the tension it's built up or whatnot.
I mean, I think Uma Thurman's brilliant as Poison Ivy,
and
I think she's completely underrated in that. I think had she been in maybe Batman and Forever, that maybe would have been a better film.
Yeah, I like I said, I think that I think if she wasn't a better film, maybe it'd be looked at like the type of performance of Michelle Pfeiffer as Catwoman. I think she was really good. Probably the best performance in the film, wasn't it? Really
was. I mean, the plot is the fact that Dr. Freeze is trying to freeze Gotham to ransom it, so he can have enough money to continue his research to cure his wife.
Yeah,
who's got this
disease in it.
Disease, who coincidentally, Alfred gets the same disease, doesn't he? And at the end of the film, is cured by.
It's just so they can give him an arc in it. That really is just cheap. But like I said, this is the thing. I went into it knowing about all the things they say about this movie, and I left it entertained. I was entertained because you kind of laugh at how bad it is, But
I mean, to be honest, it's not as bad as I thought it would be.
By no way is it the worst movie of all time.
But it
definitely is the weakest, and it does once again fall flat on many.
It's like Dr. Freeze's hideout, right? It's frozen, but it's got a big lever on the wall that says heat and chill.
Yeah.
Why have that? Because the police come in and they turn it up to heat, and it's like
just never explains it, does it? And I think that's maybe the whole film. It sets up things, it just doesn't explain it, and you're just left like, what the hell is this?
Just like I say, back to the comic book era. And what is Joel Schumacher's obsession with Bunda?
Yeah.
Right?
Bat cheeks,
Batman
mate.
Forever, Batman and Robin. There's scenes where Batman and Robin and Batgirl are changing into their costumes, and there's a nice close-up of the old bat cheeks in a lingering close-up. Does a costume really need an ass crack in it?
No, and I don't want to see Batman's nipples, to be fair.
So yeah, I mean that was another criticism, wasn't it?
Yeah.
The sort of anatomically correct bat suit with bat nipples.
Like I said, I think there's a couple of positives about this film, but once again, the negatives outweigh the positives to the film. But at the end of the day, as someone who didn't grow up, I know I didn't grow up with these movies or whatnot, but I was just entertained with it.
Yeah.
I was laughing at it, how bad this is, but no way is it as bad as people say. Like I said, I was thoroughly entertained and a lot. I must admit, it probably has the most action out of all the movies, doesn't it? So,
and again, it's a little bit trivia. It's the first live action film to introduce Arkham Asylum.
It is, yeah.
Well. And if you notice, in a few of the scenes that involve Dr. Freeze in Arkham with the two guards,
you see
one of them is Jesse the Body Ventura, wrestler turned actor, obviously a mate of Arnie's because he made Predator with him, Running Man, and the other is a guy called Ralph Muller, who was a former Mr. Universe, probably most notable for his performance in Gladiator as the big massive German gladiator. Probably another mate of Arnie's as well.
Yeah.
So if you want to get into films, just become a mate of Arnie's. And it's the first live action film to introduce the character of Bane. Although he's very different to the Bane.
Well, that's the thing. Bane in this one is much more comic.
Yeah.
He's much more related to the comics, whereas...
Well, he's originally a criminal named Antonio Diego, and he's transformed into a powerful super soldier by a strength-enhancing drug he was being given by
it was
Poison Ivy's
boss, wasn't it?
character.
But yeah, no, this is much more comic accurate, but once again, I was just laughing at Bane, because he's just a dumb idiot, isn't he? You know what I mean?
And he's played by a guy called Robert Jeep Swenson, who was another wrestler turned actor. Unfortunately, died at the age of 40 from steroid.
Rest in peace,
or a
Bane.
heart attack brought on by
this
steroids.
film.
Probably. So there's a few Coolio. A cameo in it. As the most Jonathan Crane, later stating he was to reprise his role as Scarecrow, but it was cancelled because they were actually going to make 2 Batman Unchained, wasn't it, and another film as well.
Yeah, like I said, what we'll do, because this is part 1, part 2, we'll get into all the failed sequels to this. But yeah, they were. I believe they, like you said, they greenlit two additional sequels, and I think they were going to have Clooney in them, but
and they were going to let's say introduce like the Scarecrow and other characters in that as well.
But like I said, we'll get into that in part 2. But yeah, like I said, the takeaway from this film is, yes, it's shit. Yes, it's easily the worst probably the worst superhero movie ever made. But it's entertaining, and I think everyone needs to watch this film just to see how you don't make a superhero movie. And the bat cheeks, of course. You know?
Yeah. Don't forget the bat. But I think overall, entertaining. I think. How do you rank the 4 films?
I'd say Batman Forever.
Yeah.
Batman Returns. Batman 89 and Batman and Robin.
And I would agree.
Yeah.
And I think some people are going to be.
That. Yeah, they're going to be rioting or something. But just from an outside source, us two.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a fair enough rating.
Yeah.
Like I said, Batman Forever, even though it's on top, it's still not. It still doesn't.
No, it's not the greatest Batman. film,
but out of these out there.
But again, it's relative, isn't it? Because you get to 1997, and you've seen Batman and Robin. They're the only 4 Batman films that have ever been made. You've got nothing else to compare it to. You're going to think, well, maybe it was a great film.
Yeah.
Or great.
But I just.
But yeah, I've definitely reevaluated my thoughts on those.
But then again, though, I reckon I'm going to get even more hate for this. The films out of those 4 I'd watch as Batman Forever and Batman and Robin because they're entertaining. You know what I mean? It's just simple as.
Yeah.
And they feel like Batman movies, but.
Okay. Well, that's the end of part 1.
Yeah.
So, like Cheeto says, next week we'll be exploring the
modern Batman movies.
So the Nolan trilogy and also
the Snyder Batman
v Superman. We're not going to go into Justice League because that is an ensemble cast, I guess. And so we want to see. Just wanted to see Affleck's first outing as Batman.
Well, we'll do like our rankings overall, and we'll talk about some failed sequels and whatnot.
Well, so hopefully you'll join us again for that.
It's been very good, hasn't it?
Yeah, I've been looking forward to this one. I think it's one of those subjects that people are going to be. It's going to be controversial for some people. I think. But people are passionate about.
Oh yeah, it's Batman, isn't it?
Yeah, and everybody knows how to make a Batman film, or their Batman film, and who they would cast and how they would do it, and that's the problem, I think, as well. Is it right to give somebody who doesn't actually
care for the character,
for the characters, the actual? We've said this. I mean, we keep harking back to Star Wars. We said this about Star Wars. With the last 3 films, you had J.J. Abrams, who we thought did a competent job, and then it was given to Rian Johnson. Who took it in a completely different direction, and we just felt they didn't like the characters or the franchise. Maybe that's the same with Batman. I mean, I'm sure the fans are going to be the same with that. Every fan, like I said, will know how to make a Batman film and what their perfect Batman film is, and who their perfect characters are and casting is. But this, like I say, this is just our own opinion.
Yeah.
We don't have any history with Batman other than the film.
I grew up on the Nolan trilogy, but these 90s, the initial Batman franchise, we don't really have any ties to it, do we?
No, we don't even, not with the comic books or anything. No. So we're not like uber fans. So this is just our opinion on those films, not on Batman in general. So please don't write in.
I'll be scared if they know our address.
I'm Batman. I know everything. Right, so all that's left for me to say is thank you for joining us, and I hope to see you again next week.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Goodbye.